Welcome back to another day at 13 speed. Today what we're going to do is change the hood tilt bushings on a 2012 Peterbilt 384. Same thing as a 386. The only real difference is the cab position and length of the hood. They're essentially the same truck. Same cab is actually 389, 388, 379. 377. They all use the same basic cab. So most cab pieces will interchange. The hoods are where they really differ. As you can tell, somebody put in a different cotter pin than what was originally used. The original pin was more like a hairpin. This got a cotter pin. We'll reuse this because it's not bad. It's fairly new. So we'll set that out of the way. We'll get the socket, which is somewhere. It is actually a half inch. Give me like 10 minutes and I'll remember that this is called an Allen. So it's a half-inch Allen, and that fits in there. Most factory nuts are 15/16. We have a jack here. We use an air jack. What this will do is allow us to pick up the hood. The hood is actually supported at the headlight bucket. So you're not going to put, because this hood's fiberglass, contrary to what everybody calls them, they're not actually plastic. They are fiberglass. Some hoods are also made of metin, but this isn't one of those metin hoods. It's fiberglass hood. So what we'll do is we'll just pick this up just a little bit, pull some of the tension off of it, and you'll be able to see the hinge move here a little bit to take the pressure off this hinge. We'll pull this bolt out. Once the bolt's out, then we'll work on rebushing the hinge. Now, if for some reason you're taking the hood off completely, maybe you're doing some work on the engine, maybe you're doing an engine swap, maybe you're doing, a hood exchange for some reason, then you can do both sides. Generally, if it's on the truck, it's easier in the long run to do one side at a time than try and sling the hood up and do both sides at a time. So we do have a jack. We have a 12-ton hydraulic air jack. You can use a 12-ton bottle jack. Hell, if you just have a car jack at home and a piece of 4x4 or 2x4 put in here, just anything to help you support the hood while you pull this pin out is enough. So we're going to go ahead and pick that up right now a little bit. And you'll see the hinge move right there. When they line up, go ahead and stop. And then you'll also be able to manipulate the hood a little bit by hand, and you'll see stuff wiggle around in there. I will use ratchet, half-inch ratchet. You can use an impact gun if you want to. However, all of this is aluminum. That's aluminum. That's aluminum. The nut is not aluminum, obviously. It's a steel nut. If the nuts and bolt or pin is in good shape, you should be able to just spin it off by hand, put it out of the way, and then just take your ratchet, and then you can turn it out. If it starts getting like this, then you'll want a pry bar. And better off to use a pry bar. We'll pry right here, and you want to pry against something that isn't going to get damaged. So this is actually where I'm putting the pry bars against the side of the radiator. But if you notice, it's coming out. I'm not putting much pressure at all, and it's just slipping right out until it no longer comes out. Once that's done, then you can come in here and you can put the pry bar a little bit further, grab that bolt that's Actually holds a front spring hanger. And this is where a square pry bar comes in handy, because if you look, I'm actually putting just a little bit of pressure on the head of the bolt so it comes out. Now this hood's going to come and wobble around a little bit as we get this out. So this is what the bolt looks like. It shows a little bit of wear, but it's not bad. No reason we can't reuse this bolt. So that's what we're going to do. And if the bolt goes bad, you can kind of use any bolt. I would recommend using the factory bolt because it doesn't interfere with anything here. It does have the castle nut that'll go in there and lock in. If it don't have the castle nut, just road vibration and working as that hood goes down will back this nut off. You'll lose the nut. The hood will drop down. It'll rest on the bumper, eat up the hood, and things like that. So I do recommend having the proper nut and bolt. If you get real desperate, you can get a bolt that's this size. And I believe this is a 1/2-inch shafted bolt. Even with a hex head on it, put a washer on it. You can drill a hole to put a cotter pin if that's all you've got to get you home, or until they can get you a bolt. But again, you're better off to use this style pin. It's made for it. It's a really quick, easy install. There's no over tightening, anything like that. A regular hex head fastener has more threads on it. You can pinch this tight where it'll make it difficult for you to open the hood. You kind of want to avoid that. So we're just going to sit that there right there for right now. If I can move this camera, I'm going to show you how bad, and excuse the camera shake here, I'm going to show you how bad, and I don't know if you can see that at all. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. You can see that bushing's worn out. That's pretty bad. Just for a frame of reference, this truck has 1.2 million miles on it. So considering that it's got 1.2 million miles, it doesn't look that bad. It is a 2012, so a lot of miles for a lot of use. It was a fuel tanker here locally. And this hinge is loose, so we will have to, when we're done changing the brackets, we're going to find out why, not the brackets. When we're done changing this pin, we are going to find out why this bracket is just moving back and forth and so loose in there. It may need bushings there as well. It probably does. So this right here is a nylon, some people call it plastic, but it's actually a nylon wear bushing to keep the hood from squeaking. It's actually a pretty ingenious little advance that Peterbilt has done. The early hinges like this did not have these nylon bushes, and they had grease fittings. The grease fittings tended to wear out faster. So what's supposed to be in there is a brand new nylon bushing and a steel wear collar. So you slip the bushing back in, and you push this back into position, put the wear collar in. You don't want to put any anti-seize or anything on these bolts. However, if you live in a maybe back east, Midwest, where they use a lot of salt on the roads, or they use brine. I know that New England, in New England, New Hampshire, Northern Mass, they don't salt roads anymore. They tend to brine them. That is one of the worst things in the world you can do for a vehicle, as far as keeping stuff from corroding. So you might want to put some anti-seize on here if your truck is going to see any kind of service up there in, again, New England, especially northern New England, that kind of stuff. I'm not familiar. Great Lakes have different issues with salt and stuff like that in their wintertime. And again, you should be able to just kind of push it in by hand. You can see the collar sticking out. That's okay, because when we tighten it up, it will snug right up in there, and it'll be all good. Let's see. Let's see here. So as you come around, you'll want to watch. Can you see on the camera the line up of the holes? Is it showing that?
Not really.
Well, can you move the camera? Just move the tripod.
It's not a distance thing.
You might see if you can line up the holes for the cotter pins. I'm trying to give you a view through of this. Wow, one of these holes.
It's pretty good right there.
Okay. So as you can see, or you should be able to see by now, the pin and the hinge is all lined up straight. Take your cotter pin. A lot of people will put the R in cotter. It's a cotter, C-O-T-T-E-R, not C-A-R-T-E-R. So it's cotter, not Carter. No, not like the failed president. No, like Welcome Back Kotter, the really bad sitcom from the 70s where John Travolta got his start. You are a total zoomer. Whatever. So, we're going to go ahead and let this jack down a little bit. So the hood sits back down where it needs to. And as you can see, much tighter than it was. So we're going to set everything up to show you the same procedure. This is on the right-hand side of the truck. We're going to go to the left-hand side of the truck now. And we're going to set up everything so we can rinse and repeat on the left-hand side of the truck. Okay, so now we're on to this side of the truck. There, as you probably saw when we jacked this side being the driver's side, in the United States, or the left-hand side. So the passenger side for all you folks in Australia and Europe, because, well,
only in England.
No, Australia drives on the wrong side of the road too.
Yeah, but in Europe, England's the only one that drives on the wrong side of the road.
Right, the continent has it right, but our English brethren from, yeah. I know we shouldn't pick on the Europeans.
They've got their own problems.
Well, that's true. They do have their own problems. Especially poor France. They got macaroon back instead of Le Pen. Why? That might be a way to get politics in stuff, is to have us talking about them during the... Okay, so we're going to put a new cotter pin in this. This one, as you can see, is meh. Now, if that's all you've got for a cotter pin, then by all means, go ahead, reuse it. Dude, I used impact fingers. Come on. I just didn't make the noise. Oh, look at that. This bushing came out in 2-hole pieces.
No, it's just an older style.
No.
No, you're right.
It's the worn out style. So here is the steel collar that somebody put on the bolt, and then they added a washer to it. The washer is kind of wholly unnecessary on these because, as you can see, it doesn't do anything. So we have two choices. We can put this back in like let's just put it this way. If this is what you had and you don't have access to other tooling and stuff like that, you're on the side of the road having to replace this, you could get away with using this pin with this collar. You just slip it back in there, tighten the bolt up, and you're done. On the other hand, we do have this, so we're now going to I'll show you how to get this off the collar. The easiest way to do this, believe it or not, is take this over to the anvil, and we're going to go ahead and just hit this collar with a hammer, and it will break up all the rust and allow us to put on the new collar and reuse this pin if this pin is in good enough shape. So we're going to cut the camera off here, and we'll come back as soon as we get this off.
Okay.
All right, so we're back. This is the original bolt that we took out. Again, very similar to the other one. However, if you look down there, and it may be difficult to see, the bolt and this collar is made in one piece. What this is a slightly earlier style bolt. This piece right here is the lower hood bracket for a Peterbilt 379. When I check the bolt, it has brand new bolt. It has, again, a built-on collar. Built-on collar, it's all one piece, same length, same bolt, earlier style. So because this bolt is worn out, if you look at it, you can kind of see a taper there where it's corroded and been wearing. We're going to replace this bolt because it's wore out, and we'll just use this style of bolt. The outside diameters between the replaceable collar and this collar are exactly the same. One's just an earlier style, one's a later style. So we'll go ahead and replace an earlier style bolt with an earlier style bolt, put it back together, and call it done. So the other thing that I wanted to show you that's noteworthy is here's a new castle nut. We'll include that on the new bolt. But as I said, the cotter pin, these are actually the original clips that come on the bolts that go through the castle nuts. So these clips are, nice to have. But again, if all you have is a cotter pin, you're welcome to use cotter pin. We have this clip. We're going to put the clip in it. So we're going to move this out of the way so it doesn't fall. And then we're going to get the bushing, put the bushing in, and yeah, here's the bushing. So we're going to put the bushing in first. Let's see here. Hopefully we'll be able to move this a little bit. Move the bolt because I've got to manipulate the hood to.
Yeah.
Do you have me latched over there?
No, it's unlatched. I've checked.
All right, go ahead and give me a little pulley. Okay. Go ahead and let's go back now.
Ooh, careful.
If it doesn't fit, force it. Isn't that the motto? Just need a bigger hammer. You can hear the dogs in the background. They've been on alert today for some reason. So then we'll just go ahead and again, we're just going to go ahead and tighten this up. You should always get in the habit of using the box end of a wrench instead of the open end. Though an open end will fit easier, the box end eliminates any kind of potential rounding for the nut. So it's just always better to... Oh, now I dropped my clip. How nice. So it's always better to use the box end of a wrench. So sometimes this stuff, especially for after years of corrosion and salt and stuff like that, you might not be able to push things in and out as easily as I did by hand. Go ahead and let the pressure off the jack. This time we had to set the jack up on the edge of the hood like that because the earpiece is still on for the bumper support. The other one we had to... There you go. The other one we had to take this piece off to do some work on the bumper support. So we just went ahead and did all these bushings right here while we had it apart. You do not have to remove the bumper to change these bushings. However, it's easier if you do. But again, it's not a necessity. You can change these bushings without removing the bumper. Oftentimes it's easier to do that if the bumper's still on with the hood open, because then it tucks it in the groove and it allows you to maneuver it around and you can kind of support it a little bit better. You can even use the bumper to help support the hood hinge and keep it aligned. So as you can see, the hood's pretty secure now, pretty solid, doesn't bounce around. If you have a fiberglass hood and you start to notice spider cracks in this area, if you can see that, I don't know. Yeah, up a little bit. So if you start seeing spider cracks in this area on a fiberglass hood, that's generally a sign that something's loose in your hinge pivot here, or you've got worn out bushings. And as you go down the road, that hood's just sitting there beating itself to death. So you can repair the spider cracks, but they'll only stay repaired after you replace the bushing and fix what's causing the spider cracks. A lot of times it's inordinate amount of flex in the hinge itself and whatnot. So always look for that as an indicator that you might have something going on. When you do your 90-day services, just go up there, grab the corner of your hood right there, give it a little wiggle. If it wiggles a bit and you see anything like the pin moving around or anything, you know that you need to get some bushings to change your bushings. And with that, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, give us a share, subscribe, and thank you, and see you next time on 13 Speed.